Well, a really warm welcome to everyone and good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar today looking at learning to code with iPad. My name is Tim Lings and I'm Director of IT at Heronsgate Primary School, and I'm joined by, who's on mute?
Good start. My name's Ralph Corris, Year 5 teacher here at Heronsgate, and on the computing team and an Apple teacher, and helping out Tim all things computing at Heronsgate.
Fantastic. So this webinar is brought to you by Heronsgate Primary School. We're a school in Southeast London, in Woolwich and Thamesmead, if you've ever been in those parts of the world. We're also an EdTech demonstrator school, so it's part of the DfE's EdTech Demonstrator Schools and Colleges programme. This is a network of schools and colleges across England who are exhibiting effective practice in the use of technology, and the programme offers peer-to-peer support on the effective use of technology, including remote education. So this programme has been running since April and it finishes the end of March. So if you would like some peer-to-peer support for your school and your state school in England, then please do visit edtech.demonstrator.lgfl.net and you can register your interest there. And then you'll be paired up with a school that's going to best support you with how your kind of edtech's going in your school, how that can be taken further. So if you want to work with Heronsgate, put us down, or it might be another school if it's kind of a better match for you. So do have a look at that. We are also an Apple Regional Training Centre with the Greenwich.
Tim, you've just gone
muted myself. There we go. You can follow us on Twitter should you wish to. And Apple Regional Training Centres deliver courses to build the skills and confidence of educators to use Apple technology inside and outside the classroom. We're a community sharing best practice and inspiring excellence through teaching with Apple technology. So today we are looking at learning to code with iPad, and we've got some resources we're going to go through, plus a range of different apps. And of course, there's going to be lots of chances to ask questions, which we hopefully will be able to answer. Your Zoom interface might look a little bit like this. So there is a Q&A button. We're going to make use of this today. So if you click there, you are able to post a question, and we've made it this time, we're trying to develop this a bit better, that everyone can see everyone's questions, and you can also kind of post comments yourself to people's questions. So hopefully it will allow a bit more discussion. So in light of that, we're not going to be using the chat button, I think. Let me just see if I've actually turned it off. Here we go. No, okay, so no one can chat. We're going to turn off chat, there we go. But that should hopefully mean that everyone can see what's going on. Because sometimes we find with chat is that people like, I didn't see the message, what's going on? Later on, there might be the opportunity for you to raise your hand and join in the conversation yourself and go off mute. So look out for that. Now, we always like to start off with a poll to get everyone into the webinar mood. So we've got a question here. What is your experience in learning to code on an iPad? So I've got 5 different possible answers for that. And I'm going to launch the poll now. So hopefully this will now appear on your screen. This is your opportunity to share what you think. What is your experience using coding, learning to code on an iPad? There we go. Oh, we're up to 37% of attendees have voted. 50%, getting there. Only a few more to go. A little bit higher. I'm going to give you 30 seconds, perhaps more to go. See if you want to answer the question. There we go. Okay, let's have 10 more seconds. If you're able to answer that poll, hopefully it should be appearing on your screen. You're able to join in. Oh, okay. One more's just come through. Okay. Last chance. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to end the poll. So let me just share this with everyone. So it's one person said they're pretty confident with iPad coding apps. 40%. There we go. Thanks, Ralph. They've opened a coding app perhaps once, maybe, and then 40% of you saying you can code on an iPad. Well, hopefully today we'll be able to
cool, lovely,
help you with that. Good. So the next question I've got, just to kind of get everyone having a think, why would learning to code be beneficial in the classroom? What is the point? Why do we bother doing any kind of coding? Why don't we just carry on with English and maths and whatever else? But why might we want to teach that to students? So if you click on the Q&A, and if you just post your, well, post it as a question, post your thoughts. Why would learning to code be beneficial? If you post that there, then everyone else should be able to see it as well. So if you'd like to just give you a minute or so to just post some suggestions people have as to why learning to code would be beneficial in the classroom.
It's obviously the first time we haven't done the chat feature, and I've just realised, because obviously we can type into the chat, but I can't type in anything onto this.
I think you might be able to answer things.
I know I can type in an answer.
There we go.
But I can't.
So logical thinking, yep, it's important to develop that ability to kind of problem solve. Thank you,
definitely.
Samia. Anyone else want to share any thoughts? Brilliant. So Emma's saying future jobs, a great way to, you know, coding. There's a whole load of jobs out there if you want to write software.
We were actually saying that yesterday, weren't we, Tim, that actually of all the things people sort of do at school, actually coding is one of those ones that has a clear sort of path through to a few. You can definitely say to the children, this, like, you learn how to do this really well, there'll definitely be future career paths for it.
Definitely. Fantastic. Oh, we've got a hand up. So I'm going to mispronounce your name. Would you like to share any thoughts? Karen, I'm just going to allow you to talk. If you want to say something, just take yourself off mute if you had any thoughts. Go for it.
I don't know how to fill that in, which is probably not a good start.
Okay, fine. Well, I think we're just going to carry on.
I've got a screen that says Q&A. Why would learning be beneficial? But yeah, so I don't know where to write.
There should be a button at the bottom that says Q&A. If you kind of click or tap on your screen, there should be a button that says Q&A. If you click there, and then you should be able to post a question. Does that look like that might be working?
I haven't got that.
Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. But thank you for everyone else who's been able to share. We're going to move on now, I think. Okay. So today, oh, in fact, let me rewind that. I'm now going to play you a little Apple video all about coding, which hopefully might answer some of these questions. Okay, so let's go for that.
If someone said, when you're older, do you know how to code? Like, they're going to expect you to know how to code.
You hear the word coding and you think, oh gosh, it's all technical jargon. How do I teach it? It was a bit terrifying.
It's fine, Alfie. Morning.
The thing that I found that helped the most was admitting to the children, all right, guys, I've not done this before. You've not done this before. Let's learn together.
Come on in, my friends. Good morning.
About 2 years ago, we started implementing Everyone Can Code for all of our classes, and it quickly started becoming very contagious, something that sparked a fire with our kids, sparked a fire with our teachers.
Today, we're going to learn something new.
Everyone Can Code のこれはカリキュラムっていう形で入っているとてもやりやすいだから小学校特にこういう小さな子どもたちにプログラミングを教えることができると思います。
Levante la mano, ¿quién ya está listo? Ahora nos vamos a meter a Swift Playgrounds.
Para nosotros coding es no nada más una materia, sino es donde les enseñas a tomar decisiones, a usar su creatividad, a trabajar en equipo.
Bueno, inténtalo. Bon matin tout le monde. T'as le goût de faire de la programmation? Oui.
La programmation, c'est pas juste la programmation. On leur permet, au travers de la programmation, de développer plein d'autres compétences.
Vous pourrez vous promener dans la classe, vous pourrez vous installer un peu partout, ça me dérange pas. Je veux que vous travaillez en équipe.
Ici, je vais mettre turn right.
It's transferable skills across the curriculum, so all the skills that they're learning, problem solving, being critical thinkers. But it's not just about the coding.
If you wanted to move forward and a bit left, you might want to fix the code.
They are using relationships and being collaborative. They're learning that mistakes are fine.
That enhances what happens in math. That enhances what happens in their ability to comprehend.
Okay, where am I going?
They're getting challenged where they're not, being successful, but they're not stopping either.
Why? It didn't work the first time. So you just need to try again. Oh, yeah. I told you this is.
They can program it, they can see it, the thing does it. Oh no, I've gone wrong there. Right, change that bit, change this bit, do that. And they'll switch it, and then they can instantly try it again. So what you then get is the speed of learning starts to accelerate.
Oh, we did it! We did it!
We are trying to give children the opportunity to see the wider world. There are jobs that haven't even been invented yet.
Well, hang on, what's going to exist in the next 20 years? What's going to exist in the next 10 years?
Our kids need to have a stake in that game. Their voice needs to be heard. They need to understand coding, even if they're not going to be programmers.
Creo firmemente que las mejores herramientas tienen la capacidad de cambiar el mundo y Apple me lo ha hecho muy fácil, ¿no?
Sky's the limit, and I hope that as a teacher we've instilled that within them and that they can leave this school thinking, yeah, do you know what, I can be anything that I want to be.
Lovely. Nothing like an inspirational Apple video.
It made me it made me think a little bit about the Elon Musk rocket that blew up this morning. And he's like, oh well, it went really well, and we'll get it even better next time.
There we go. Lots of learning. So now Apple have put together a kind of a sequence of resources to help coding on iPad, and they call it Everyone Can Code. And here we've got some nice little cute characters that they use. And basically, it's made up of a series of curriculum resources and corresponding apps that help you teach coding on iPad from Key Stage 1, Key Stage 2, and Key Stage 3. And in fact, beyond, but we're not going to cover that because you have to get a Mac to actually write real apps. But anyway, we're going to just look at the iPad side. So we're going to start off just showing you some of these resources. They're all available for free on the Apple Books app. So this is on either a Mac or an iPad. You find there's that Books app. You can find these different books there. There's teacher guides, and with some of them, there's also student workbooks, and they tie into a range of different coding apps. Now, the first set of resources are called Get Started with Code, which is nicely titled, I think, because it kind of helps emphasize you're getting started. And these are for Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2. So Get Started with Code is definitely a Key Stage 1 resource. Get Started with Code 2 can be used in Key Stage 2 as well, in fact, yeah, throughout. And there's loads of resources in there. There's lesson plans, there's keynote slides, so you don't have to kind of make your own slides. There's lots of answers to the different resources you might use, like if you're doing levels on these different apps, it gives you the answers, and much, much more. Now, these resources work with two different coding apps. One's called CodeSpark and one's called Tinker, and we'll have a look at them later. But what's really good about them, it's not just, here is an app, go and learn to code. It actually breaks down the different coding skills you've got to learn and teaches them step by step with loads of really fun hands-on practical activities. And in fact, this is just a little outline of the kind of the structure in the Get Started with Code book. So it starts off with introduction. What is the coding concept we're going to look at? Exploring that in an everyday situation. There's then an activity that expands that concept and lets the students explore that and apply it a bit deeper. They might use the iPad to capture that work, or it might be used to kind of do an activity. But again, it's not, you're not using the coding part at this point, you're just learning the concept. Then there's a whole, there's kind of practice where the students practice that concept within one of these coding apps. There's then an opportunity to reflect, what did we learn? It's not just do this, there we go, job done. Actually, it's reflecting and thinking about that kind of metacognition of thinking about your thinking. What did we learn? What could we do better next time? How could we apply our learning in a different way? And then it suggests that you can portfolio and journal what you've learned using perhaps something like Seesaw, but there's loads of different resources now, Google Classroom, etc. All these things can be used to kind of keep track of the learning that's happened. So I thought I'd show you Get Started with Code. So I'm going to go to my iPad and open up the Books app. So I've already downloaded the book, which is handy. Let's not try and buy the book now. So we're going to start with Get Started with Code 1. And this is a teacher guide. So I'm just going to go to the beginning. So it opens up with sort of general information all about how coding is so marvelous, etc., etc.
And these are all free resources on the
totally free. And then you've got a whole load of lessons here. So there's 8 lessons, which you might think that's not very many, but if we go into, for example, lesson 1 here, you can see that you've got a 50-minute introduction activity, 40 minutes practice, half an hour reflection, maybe an optional app design. So there's a good couple of hours in one lesson. So you can spread that out. We spread it out across year 1 and year 2 in kind of 2 different units. So this is how it all starts. Introduction to sequencing. So it's got that clear concept they're trying to teach here. A sequence is an order in which things happen, like patterns or events. And here's the introduction, thinking about what is the sequence of events to brush your teeth. And you've got these little icons here. So the little pencil just tells you a bit more to help you as the teacher understand what on earth you're trying to teach. Here you've got that little download button will download some keynote slides to kind of talk you through it. In fact, if you go back to the first page, okay, some of them have got slides there as well. A little question here to help you kind of take it further. Then there's an activity here. The suggestion is that you break down the story of Goldilocks into 5 sections, get the kids to basically draw in a group of 5 kind of the different steps on their iPads, and then they physically order themselves to show how the sequence of events. So it's just getting this idea of for kids that you've got to think about what order your instructions come in the sequence. So for example, here I can tap on this and it's, you know, showing this Goldilocks instruction to sequencing. There's all the different steps in the story of Goldilocks, all drawn nicely on an iPad. So that's, you could spend a lesson doing that, kind of just getting your head around sequencing. Then you're going to have a go at practicing it with one of these apps. So with the Get Started with Code 1, you can use either CodeSpark Academy or Tinker. With Get Started with Code 2, it's just with Tinker. But here it's quite good. It's got the answers. So if you as a teacher are a bit stuck, you can always tap on that and have a look at the answers. Then once you've done those things, you can then, there's some suggestions for how to reflect on what you've learnt, and then how you journal that and draw it all together.
I actually find, Tim, using the answers is quite good in the reflection, because I quite often when I'm teaching, it's not necessarily CodeSpark, because I don't normally use that, but on a similar on Swift Playgrounds or on Tinker, I find it quite good to actually, once we've sort of finished lessons, I send them the answers, and they sort of use that in their reflection, going, oh, well, I did get it right, but I could have done it quicker, and this is how I could have done it quicker. So actually, I find that the answers are quite useful as part of the reflection. Definitely.
And I think it's in the same way in maths. You wouldn't give kids a whole load of maths questions and then like, well, there we go. I can't possibly tell you what 2 + 2 was. But reflect on how did you do with adding, like, you know, you go through the answers and figure out where did you go wrong? How could you do it better next time? That kind of stuff. There we go. So again, there was a question just coming, where are these resources? So that if you open up the Books app on your iPad, so let me just show you again, that kind of orange and white little book app, you've got the bookstore, and here you just literally search Get Started with Code, or you could search here. Get Started, and then already it's coming up because it's in my library, but you can then buy them, get them for free on there. So let's now have a little look at this CodeSpark app. So this is a really great fun app. It actually, if you want to use it for personal use, perhaps you've got kids at home that want to use it, you actually have to pay for it. But it's amazing that they give it completely for free to teachers, but you have to make a teacher account. And then once you've set up an account, you've got to set up kind of a class, all the kids' names in your class, and then there's a little code that they enter in to access it. A little bit fiddly at the start, but once that's going, the kids love using it. So you quite soon forget the slight challenge at that point. But what's really good about CodeSpark is it teaches coding concepts entirely visually. So there's no kind of instructions on the screen. It's all just, it kind of just shows you, and kids kind of pick it up really easily. So it's very much kind of a game-based mechanic, but it is teaching those proper skills, and it's really great fun. But I think if you just had the app, kids would just do it, but not really understand why it works or what's going on. And actually it's part that the curriculum resources means that you teach the concept, they practice it, and then they try it out on the app. Hopefully they're going to get the hang of those. So let's have a go at CodeSpark. Now I must warn you, it's got really annoying music.
You know, I barely ever use it.
Thankfully, there's a mute button. Phew. Okay, so I'm already kind of logged in and synced it up with my school account, so I can just press play in school mode. And here I've got my training class. Let's be training 1. And it's going to ask me to make a character. Oh, look at these lovely. I mean, you can even unlock them if you've got loads of key. And I'm going to be the funny looking kid with spiky hair. And I can, you know, roll the dice. And I'm going to be Autumn Meownet. What a great name. Okay. But that's quite good. It's GDPR, you know, not giving away the kids' actual names. So there's basically kind of 3 modes. You can create fun stuff. You can explore, but we're going to go at puzzles because this is what we're going to work through. And if we went back to that book, it actually tells us which puzzles to use. Why don't we have a look? For that first lesson, it suggests that you do levels 1 to 8 of Donut Detective. So let's do that. So we're in Donut Detective, which is all about sequencing. And as you can see, very kind of game-based mechanic here, levels, stars. So I'm going to go on level 1.
So Tim, just before we do that, what is it suggested we do before this lesson? Before we go on to the app.
So it's suggested that it's already suggested that we learn about sequencing. So thinking about brushing your teeth, that retelling of the Goldilocks story. So they've already spent a whole lesson learning about putting things in the right order to tell a story or get stuff done. And then we're moving on to the CodeSpark app. And at this point, that would be the main teaching point. You know, computers need to be told instructions in the right order to make sense. So it's already telling me what to do. I've got to drag this little block in here. And in a sense, you know, this is a command that I'm sequencing together in my code. And then it's saying that I've got to tap on this little fella here. There we go. And then they or she gets the donut, whoop, whoop, and I get 3 stars. Look at that. And, you know, amazing. Level 2. So again, I can keep trying to solve it. And I can do it like this. I can just put 1 command to move. I can tap the button and move along 1. Oh, it's not quite enough, but I can just run it again and then they get it. So I've managed to solve the puzzle, but I haven't kind of solved it all in one go. So I only get 2 stars. And I could be a bit disappointed to try again. And so this is where you learn how to kind of run the code all in one go. So you've got those 2 commands, walk, walk, and it walks along and gets the donut. Look at that, fantastic. Whoop, whoop. And I get my 3 stars. Lovely. So maybe we can move on to the next level.
You sure you're up for it?
I know I mean, they do start pretty easy, but again, it's good.
I have to, don't they?
Year 1 kids, you need to kind of do that. So we can move along. And then we've also got a second control here, which is like a jump. So I think I'm going to walk and then I'm going to jump, and that should hopefully get my donut.
But this is pitched really nicely for year 1, isn't it? They are. It's just the right age for them, and they do grasp it, and they do understand, and it is instantly starting to use the right terminology for the coding for when it does get more complicated, but further up in the school.
So I think at this point we're going to open it up to the room. So if you want to pop in the Q&A what you think the commands are going to be, you've got walk and jump. Okay, so fastest finger first. Who can post in the Q&A what they think the answer is? And let's see who gets it right. I'm on the look, looking out. Who's going to be there first? Maybe I'll turn on the music just to drive you on. I'm not, because this is being recorded and I'm going to record it. Right. Lovely. Come on. Does no one want to answer the... Okay, well, oh, here we go. Emma, walk. Good. So Emma's posted. Just walk, do you reckon? Just walk? Is it a bit more than that? I think.
We're going one at a time.
One at a time. I think it's a bit more than walk. Ralph, oh, here we go. Run, jump, jump, jump. Oh,
Emma's doing it 1 step at a time.
Oh, walk. So they reckon 3 jumps.
Run,
jump, jump, jump. Let's try. Run.
It's all good, Emma.
Jump, jump. And you got it right. Amazing. Thank you, Samia. I've said your name right. That is fantastic. So again, we're kind of getting a feel of how that works, and it just carries on. Here we've got I reckon it would be a walk and a jump and a jump. Let's try that. We go up. So again, it's teaching that basic kind of sequencing skills as we go through, and you'd unpick it for your students. So some kids would just totally get it first time and other kids wouldn't. Now here, what's quite nice, oh, here's the glitch causing trouble, but it's the other direction. So what's really nice is you've got this slow kind of development of what's going on. And here, the fact you can change the walk, it's not just walk right, you can also walk left. And what's also nice is it's got 5 kind of slots, so you know you need to have 5 commands. All these kind of cues to help direct kids to kind of solve that puzzle. And there we go. So
I would say that one's quite a jump up actually, in terms of when you're thinking of year one's understanding of direction and things. That one I would say is quite a step up.
So you definitely, what you could do is they could try it as a class, and then those who are getting it could kind of unpick it for others, or could they take a screenshot and record how they think they can solve that puzzle. So definitely it's very much not just off you go kids, use this coding app, but having that constant kind of plenaries and drawing it together as a class to help kids.
And actually, funnily enough, like you sort of think about it, but sometimes in this, like you don't sort of think about simple things like the kids learning left and right, and actually it's a perfect opportunity to get their directional and positional language like that sorted.
So we could carry on doing this all night, but I think that might not be so fruitful. So hopefully that's giving you kind of a taste of CodeSpark. So here, there's no kind of words here, it's all visually done, but all of these coding concepts are being taught at the same time. And it's just really fun and kind of visually attractive, but it does, as it goes on, there's things like loops and there's other stuff happening as well. So it is kind of a fully featured app with lots going on, which is great fun. So it kind of goes on. You've got advanced sequencing, you've got events and conditional. So it does get pretty kind of complicated, but it's all good fun. So we're now going to move on to Tinker. So just to kind of give you a bit of an intro, and then I'll hand over to Mr. Korish. So it is another free app, but you do have to kind of set up student accounts which are free to access some of the later levels. So they want to kind of tie you into a subscription, but you can access the resources that are on the Get Started with Code for free. It's again like CodeSpark block-based coding, but there's kind of words on the instructions. It's not just all visual. And it's definitely a bridge to text-based language. So you can press a button and it will convert the blocks into actual code. But again, solving those puzzles using coding concepts. So I'm now going to hand over to Mr. Korish, who's going to attempt to share his iPad.
Attempt to share the screen. It's always a fun thing to share it with this iPad and see if it works. So share.
How are we doing? Aha, yes, it works.
Lovely, lovely, fantastic. And you know what? It's now connected to the internet as well. It's all fallen into place. So we've got down here, we've got the Tinker app, which is this T1 at the bottom here. And so similar kind of look out in terms of how it's presented, and exactly the same way. This one's generally pitched for slightly older children. We normally use Tinker for lower key stage 2, just going into upper key stage 2. I don't think we do it in year 6, do we, Mr. Lings? We do it. It's years 3 to 5, I think. We do Tinker, and the year 3 children, I seem to recall, start on early levels of dragon spells, and then it gets a bit harder as it goes on. And those same language that we were just looking at before in terms of loops, condition statements and things like that, the language sort of starts, it's using the same thing, but it starts getting progressively tougher. And exactly the same way as before, we'd have lessons talking about what the coding we're going to be looking at is before we actually start doing the coding. So it's not a case of just, let's all open first lesson, let's all open Tinker, right, go and get on with the lessons, go and get on with the levels. Actually, no, there's more structure to it, understanding what the terminology is, understanding how important the language is and all of that. So as you can see, because I'm on a different iPad from one I've taught with my class, so I haven't actually done any of these. I've created teacher profile, and we're looking here at dragon spells. And again, it starts quite straightforward, and then it gets more complicated as we go along. So it starts on dragon eggs. Choose a dragon, then build algorithms to guide your dragon to the treasure. A sequencing code block.
Choose a dragon egg to hatch.
Turns out this has got annoying music too, but we can mute it. So I'm gonna pick Harper there. Pick my dragon. Oh, it's still got it. So it gives a bit of instructions there. Each walk makes. Let's get rid of that. I have got rid of that. Why?
There we go. So determined to play it.
It's so determined to be irritating with its noise there. So it gave me a bit of instructions there, and you can see on the left there's a little tab where you can see the 3 lines. That's where we do our coding. So you can pull that back and forward so the kids can have a full screen. But in order to type the code, I need to press that, and it comes across. And as Tim said, we've got the blockwork language there for Tinker. However, if we look down at the bottom, you can see like it looks like a bird. And that is for another app that's using the same kind of language as another app we're going to look at in a bit called Swift Playgrounds, where it's so determined without music, where it starts looking more like things you don't expect to be an issue, and where it's starting to look like more real coding language there. So, but if we just focus on that, now the same thing, it's given us a few options. It's got walk and it's got jump. So it looks to me like I need to walk across one and then I need to jump to get to the treasure. If I go back to my Swift language there, you can see it's very similar, but starting to use coding language with the brackets and everything, so that when children are using this in year 3 and year 4 and year 5, when they start going onto Swift Playgrounds, they'll recognize the language so that they can build on it onto the next step, because Swift Playgrounds is like the next step up using the learning to code. It's not going to beat me that time. So I've got my coding language there. On start, walk and jump. So walk and jump, and I collect all the treasure. Fantastic. And it's said in exactly the same way as before. It's given me the 3 stars because I've done it in the best way possible. So again, just like CodeSpark, exactly the same way. It's just that next level up in terms of generally a difficulty. It obviously starts off simple there, but it gets a bit harder a bit quicker. But it's using exactly the same thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to Dragon Spells, and I'm just going to go along to one a little bit later. So I'll go into Deja Vu and see if what we've got here. So Deja Vu, try to identify a repeating pattern. So we're talking about repeating patterns now, and then shorten your algorithm, your coding, by putting that code in a loop. So we're starting to look at loops now. So it's built on from CodeSpark. The first level, just to get the children into the app, is going to be sort of fairly straightforward. But now we're starting to look at loops and how we can shorten code. I don't remember doing this one, so let's hope I can do it. So use a loop to make the dragon walk to the treasure. So first things first, let's read the language. I need to read this quickly. Repeats the code in the loop 3 times. This type of loop is counting it. So stupid thing. So let's go back to that. So I got my Tinker language there. I'm going to go back to my it was on Swift. I'm going there. So on start. So I've got my loop function here, which I bring in there, and it's got repeat, and it says 5, which means we want to repeat it 5 times. Want to repeat it 5 times. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to check if that's correct by looking at how many spaces across that is correct. But before I do that, I need to put in the walk.
It's so desperate to play that music, isn't it?
Really irritating. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 looks correct. 5 looks correct. I'm going to type in 4 just to see what it does, so that we can. What I did there was I tapped on where the 5 was, and I'm just going to put in 4, and I'm going to put in OK just to see what happens. So it says on start, repeat, walk, and it's showing it, that green, it's showing what it's doing each time. And now I've done 4, and obviously I've missed it. I haven't quite made it. So walk to the treasure using a loop. Okay, fine. So we know it's 5, but I was just wanted to show. So press the 5. Okay, and let's do it.
And with this, in a sense, there's nothing to stop students just putting walk down 5 times, but the challenge is, can you solve that problem using that particular part of code?
Yeah, and it's given me 2-star because I had to have 2 attempts to do it. I needed 2 attempts to do it. So going on to the next one, Tim, should we open this one out to the floor to have a...
What a great idea.
So hang on, bear with me. Let's get rid of that sound a second. So, I'll leave. Can you? Do I have to stop the sharing, or can you?
No. It's, oh, here we go. Sammy has already put suggestions. If you just put it in the Q&A. So I think there's a suggestion there.
3 times jump. Let's try that. 3 times jump. 3 times. Oh, we all still there? Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Right. So repeat. Make sure that's cooked in. 3. Okay. Jump. Let's try it. Go. 1, 2, 3. Lovely. All right, let's do one more. Because this one's slightly. Let's do the Q&A again. Let's do the Q&A again. So I've got walk, eat, and blast. So I'm going to need to blast those woods, blast those logs, in order to get to that treasure. So I've got to eat that firefly before I can. So let's see if anyone has an idea about how we can get to this treasure.
Because the challenge there is to kind of the combinations of walking and eating and blasting and tricky.
Yeah, this one's a tricky one actually. It's quite a good one.
So we've had one suggestion: eat, then blast 3 times.
Okay, eat, blast 3 times. Okay, so let's see. There we go. So, are we putting that in? So I'm going to say, let's put eat then, and if we put the blast 3 times, repeat. Let's see how that goes. So eat. So can we think what might be missing? I think it might be giving us a clue there. So it's helping us a little bit there. So use walk and blast inside the loop. So let's follow that instructions there and add walk into it. And let's see if that now works.
Oh, that's good. I think you might have trouble when you get the treasure at the end because there's needs some more walking.
I think we might need a little bit more walking. So what we can do there then is that we can put the walk maybe outside of the loop there. Let's try it one more time.
And again, with this, there's probably multiple ways that you could do it. You know, you could put a walk before you start repeating and then do blast, then walk. So there's kind of different options.
Let's get rid of that music once and for all.
Great. Thank you, Ralph. Okay, I'm just going to share my iPad 1 second.
So out of the 3 apps we're looking at, that's kind of like the middle one, isn't it? Yeah. I would say. We've got CodeSpark, and they're all based on the lessons that we've looked at in terms of everyone can code, and these what Tim's about to show you is the next one up.
Yeah. So if your students have been working through this through the school, then they're actually learning a lot of these concepts that they can then apply. using Swift Playgrounds. So this uses a language called Swift, which Apple developed about 5 years ago, 5-6 years ago. Which it's a new language that they wrote partly with education in mind as a way to teach coding rather than having all these kind of complexities that you just have to learn before you can do anything, but actually it's kind of a bit more logical and
a little bit more user-friendly.
Yeah, readable code. What's quite good about these resources is that there's a book that the students use, and there's a teacher guide that's kind of got extra information. So if I just show you those, so again on that bookstore, if you just search for Everyone Can Code, you'll come across it. But here you can see we've got Everyone Can Code Puzzles. That's kind of upper key stage 2, year 5 up. And then Everyone Can Code Adventures is a lot harder. So that's more aimed at key stage 3. But let's have a look at Everyone Can Code Puzzles. So it's very similar, but this is kind of their version 2. So they've kind of taken some feedback and have worked on it from there. And it actually is, it's good stuff here. So it explains which playgrounds you need to use. And it also says there's Swift coding clubs. That's quite fun if you want to run an after school club. But basically the lessons or kind of units are structured that you learn the concept again, like before, you then try the concept in the app, you then apply it. So there are some other playgrounds you can use to kind of practice those concepts, not necessarily just solving puzzles. And then you can connect. So thinking about how those coding concepts are used in real life. So that's really good. That ties in with the computing and national curriculum, which is nice. Very nice of them. So again, starting off with commands, but here things start getting a bit more complicated. So it starts off again teaching those concepts. So here there's some suggestions. Maybe you could what ways to use commands in the real world. There's an activity of doing some hide and seek. So you hide an object and then you give the instructions how to find it. That could be quite fun. And again, it's worth taking time, give a whole lesson to try it out and then reflect on it. What are you learning about commands? And then you get to try it using the Swift app. And here on the right, you can see what the different commands are, the different levels that you want to work through. And actually there's a lot more levels, but they don't say do them all, which is quite nice. It kind of focuses in that students can kind of develop that further in their own time if they want to, or if they're finished, but it's not kind of biting off more than you can chew. And then it literally goes through each level and helps students think about how they're going to solve it. So for example, you could use markup tools. So take a screenshot on the iPad and then annotate to figure out what are the steps, which are the blocks, and what do I need to do next to collect that gem, write numbers for each step, etc. So it's teaching students how to break down the problem. Here it's introducing the shortcut bar. So what's quite nice about the Swift Playgrounds app is it uses real code, but you don't have to type it all in because you're going to get it wrong, probably, if you're a student. But instead, it suggests it above the keyboard. That's really good. Here the problems start to get a bit more trickier. And here you're, again, just giving you tools to break down solving those problems. Last of all, it teaches you how to apply it. So there's a different playground where there's this fun little robot that you could build if you have one, but there's kind of a digital version. And it's suggesting, can you make a dance for it, a sequence of dance moves? So it's applying those concepts, but in a more open-ended way that's not just solve this puzzle, solve this puzzle. It's more of a playground, as it were. And then you can connect and apply that and even make a nice inspiration journal. Now, the teacher guide is very similar. So here we've got, let me get that right. So it's got the whole of the student guide in there. So it's basically exactly the same content. The page numbers are different, obviously, but then there's a teacher guide that kind of unpacks it a bit more, gives some suggestions of how you could structure it, how you could run the lessons. There's some American Sign Language. Sorry if you're not American, but again, they're making that effort to really engage all learners. And then here it breaks down what the answers might be, what common mistakes might be, how to kind of think through some solutions, because a lot of the time there might be multiple solutions to solve problems. So that's just a really great resource that's all really worth looking at. So I'm now going to check my slides. I think what I'm going to do is now just show you Swift.
Yeah, I think we're demoing Swift.
So here's Swift Playgrounds. At the bottom, you can download your playground. We've got Learn to Code 1. And that was the name of the previous resource that they had. And again,
another one with irritating music.
It's a little bit less irritating, but it
is a little bit less irritating, this one. Hopefully this one at least stays off. So, and what's quite nice about Swift Playgrounds is that there are levels, but you can freely jump to whatever level, because actually it knows that you're not just trying to complete the game. Sorry, the frog in my throat. So we start off with our introduction. Have you ever followed a recipe to bake a cake or made something cool, and what happens if it goes wrong? And the code is the same kind of thing. And here it's starting to introduce the idea of camel case. So here, move forward, it's got a capital F, so that as a computer you can read it a bit better. And you might recognize that language from Tinker in the previous thing. When we compared it, we had the Swift option and the Tinker option, and the Swift option was all written in this exact code, so that the children can see, and they're doing Tinker, and then they get into Swift, they'll recognize it from having done Tinker. So here on the left are my instructions, and then there's a space on the left to enter the code. And then on the right, you've got our 3D world, which is actually 3D. So I can use my finger, spin it around, pinch to kind of zoom in. So you can really have a good look at your puzzle. And some of the suggestions in the book is that you could do a screenshot. So here I can rotate it to a nice angle, do a screenshot, tap on my screenshot here, and then I could use my highlight tool and think, well, I need to walk here, and walk there, and then walk there, but then I need to then pick up the gem. So you're thinking through and breaking down, how am I going to solve that problem? So I tapped enter code, and you can see that my shortcut bar appears, hopefully. Come on, shortcut bar. Okay. It does sometimes take a second on this one, I found. Just when you press it, the bars at the bottom do sometimes take a second to come on. Okay, so I've only got 2 commands: collect gem, move forwards. So I know that I have to move forward 3 times, and it's not like Mario. So when you stand on a gem, it doesn't automatically pick it up. You have to actually collect it. So in a way, that's just the same as in Tinker and Code Academy, that you've got just those commands there, and then but now it's just in written form. So I'm going to tap run my code, and there we go. Move forwards, climbs up the stairs, stands on the gem, jumps up and grabs the gem. Congratulations, you've written your first lines of Swift code. Fantastic. So I can keep moving on. You've got that little clock icon there. If I tap on that, you can have some options like run the code faster. So if you've done it a few times and you don't want to sit there while this little character walks around, you can make him zip around. But you can also make it step through the code, where it will show you line by line which part of code is being run, because actually that makes it a bit simpler. So here our puzzle is same as the last time, but we've got a new command, which is turn left. So we're going to plan our route. So we're going to go forwards, forwards, then we're going to turn left, forwards, forwards, and then collect that gem. Let's have a try entering that. And while you're doing that, it does. There's quite a few levels where we only have turn left for a little while, and it makes the children sort of think, well, hang on, I need to turn right here, but I've only got turn left, and it makes them sort of think about, again, their positional language. Oh, if I turn left 3 times, I'll be able to turn right. Yeah, and that's quite nice, because coding a lot of the time it's learning how to do things with the tools you have, but in a more creative way. Okay, so now it's introducing a new command, toggle switch. So this, when it first came out, kids were like, what does toggle mean and what's a switch? But this now explains it a bit better, that actually when the light's on or the light's off, you're kind of pressing a button to turn it on or off. So here we can plan our route. So I reckon we're going to go forwards a couple of times. We're then going to turn left. We're going to move forwards, collect that gem, move forwards, turn left, move forwards a couple of times, and then toggle the switch. So I've done that all in one go, but you might kind of practice it in parts and see how that goes. Let's run my code. What's quite nice is there's also a hint button. So if you're completely stuck, you can do something about that. Here we go along, and we're going to toggle the switch.
And at the top here in that little brown kind of woody, I don't know what you'd call it, like
plank.
Plank, yeah. It's kind of like your score, what you're trying to do. You're trying to get 1 gem and 1 switch turned on. Fantastic. Okay. So now we're entering portal practice. So there we're running through. Now I think that's actually all of the ones off that first level.
Yeah.
But so it's not a lot, but that's fine because actually you can really spend the time kind of unpacking it a bit more and seeing how that works rather than just kind of blitzing through the whole thing.
And that's what we were saying before, isn't it? And that's actually even what that TV advert said. It's not just about just on the iPad typing in the code. It's about understanding what you're doing, why you're doing it, and so that you're embedding your knowledge so that you can take it further.
So one of the other activities was to have a go at using the MeBots playground. So I've already subscribed to this third-party one here, and I'm going to get these MeBot dances. So it's quite small, it's just going to download. I open that up. Hi, my name is MeBot. So it's a dancing robot, lovely. And you can just make it dance. But we're actually going to go on to the next one, which is basic moves, where we can make a little 3D robot dance once it's loaded. Having a little bit of trouble here. Maybe let's start that page again. Oh, here we go. So he's turned up now. So I can enter some code, and here you can see we've got a whole load of different commands. And in a sense, this allows children to just explore. Let's look at my amazing little dance move here. So a step and shake. It's looking pretty good. A swagger. A skip. Is that a skip? I'm not sure. Maybe if I had step through code, I could see what on earth's going on. But there, I'm just making a fun little dance move. If I tap on it, I can drag it around, which is quite nice that it's still got that. It's text, but you can interact with it as if it's a block. So hopefully that's given you a kind of a sense of Swift Playgrounds, admittedly quite quickly, but there's a lot in it and a lot to kind of explore.
I mean, Swift Playgrounds is a huge app, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
basically you can do a lot of stuff in there once you're getting into it. You kind of know about coding, but it's definitely a way in. So I was wondering if anyone's got any questions at this point. I think we've been answering questions along the way. So whilst you're thinking of your questions, maybe also if you've got a question, post that, or maybe you could post a reflection on what you've learned today from today's session. It's always helpful to kind of pinpoint what's something you've learned. And if you'd like to actually pop that in the Q&A, not the chat, because I've turned the chat off. Note to self, fix the slides. If you want to just pop that in the Q&A. That'll be fantastic. And any questions? Oh, so questions come in. What other coding apps are used for Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2? There's things like, what's it called? Scratch Junior is quite good. That's an iPad app. But also Scratch is now works just in a web browser, so you can use that from MIT. There's things like Codable is quite good. They have to pay for it. There's actually quite a lot.
Is Alex still a thing?
Sorry?
Is Alex
still
a thing?
It's quite an old app, but it does work.
I found that to be very good in Key Stage 1.
Magda's asking, can you add a soundtrack to MeBot? I don't know, but it could be fun to try. You could almost because on Swift Playground, there is a button to record the code as it runs. So you could make a screen recording of the robot dancing, bung it into iMovie, add some sound or into clips. That could be a fun project. There we go. Lots of possibilities. Brilliant.
I think the obviously the comment's not as tricky as I thought, and I think if you had someone, a child or an adult for that matter, and you sort of you threw them straight in at sort of level 3 of Swift Playgrounds, you'd go, oh my God, what on earth's this? I don't know what I'm doing. But the whole purpose of this sort of scheme is to build it up from the beginning and develop that understanding of what you're doing, why you're doing it, so that you can have a progression as you go through.
Fantastic. Well, that's kind of everything from us. So we've got some upcoming webinars, one looking at digital workbooks with numbers in January. So Numbers is a spreadsheet app, but you can use it in all kinds of non-spreadsheety ways. Tapestry is early years learning portfolios, always good fun. And then something on iMovie. And in fact, if you check our Eventbrite, there are actually quite a few courses still upcoming. But we're going to send an email, so do send in your survey responses. And if you do want some support from the EdTech Demonstrator Schools and Colleges program, please do register there and you can receive some support. But thank you very much everyone for joining us for the session, and I hope to see you on a future session. So thank you.
Cheers guys, thank you very much.